want to get back to my guests this morning, Bob Herbert of the progressive think tank Demos, Michael Brennan Doherty, the American Conservative, John Fugelsang, actor and comedian, Alex Wagner. Well, I feel bad having depressed everyone about this. But I will say this. I mean, I think the president, the White House deserves a lot of credit for this reason. When they were doing the whole debt ceiling dance, they said, look, we need to get this off the table so we can pivot to jobs. And I will give them this. The conversation has really changed. It really has changed. It was crazy that no one was talking about jobs. No one was talking about jobs in Washington for 6 or 7 months while these numbers, they weren't in our minds, but they were unspooling on the ground. People are talking about jobs now. And they have, look, the $450 billion package they've proposed, is it big enough? I don't know. But it is really, I think, a step in the right direction. Bob.
I so disagree. People are talking about jobs now. No one is doing anything about jobs.
But the bill is something about jobs.
If this package passed whole, it would not create many jobs. It absolutely would not. Too many tax cuts in there. You know, it's an extension of tax policy that we have now, the payroll tax cut. No, it is important, but it's not going to create a lot of jobs. It's not a jobs bill. They're not going to do anything about jobs. They haven't done anything about jobs. It is bizarre.
No, I really disagree with that, actually. I do think I do. No, because I think, look, I actually think this was, look, is it the jobs bill that I would craft? No. Is it? But
Chris, why is his first job speech now? I mean, it's 2011. I mean, I gotta say, I mean, I think that there's been a sense of frustration with this White House that pivot to jobs is a phrase that they've used countless times. I think someone counted 17 month after, and they succeeded this time. And so far, they got all the other stuff out of the way. But this should have been something.
But they've also haven't framed it. People forget. The American people forget. We were losing 700,000 jobs per month when this guy took over. He's already created more jobs than Bush did. Right. And if you try to fight for the bottom 98%, it's class warfare. If you fight for the top 2%, it's pro-growth. At this point, the only safe growth industries we have in this country are medical cannabis and tattoo removal. And, you say, oh, blame
both
Bush.
Great industries.
Yeah, exactly.
I might add.
Blame Bush. But I mean, at what point are the other side going to start? And at what point is this guy going to take the fight to Boehner himself?
Well, and I want to play a clip, actually, of the president out doing precisely that, right, on the road. Do we have the clip of the president talking about "If You Love Me"? Jonathan, do we have that clip?
Oh, yeah, right.
We don't know.
We don't. I'm getting. We don't know from the control room.
We have.
Oh, we do. I'm now getting. We do. Let's play that.
If you love me, you got to help me pass this bill.
This is him. I mean, look, he is doing the thing. He is doing a bunch of things that people have wanted him to do, and all I'm saying is, progressives have been saying for a long time, the president needs to do the following things. He needs to challenge Congress by actually not outsourcing legislation construction to them, right? Everyone was ticked off that the Republicans hated the fact that Nancy Pelosi wrote the stimulus, and Democrats hated the fact that Max Baucus and his gang of six was allowed to slow walk the health care bill. Yep. Well, he's done that. He's now said, boom, I'm throwing on the table, here it is. And people want, I'm just going to continue making the case for a second, that people have wanted him to go out on the road and sell his plan, and he's doing that. So I feel like
they wanted to see him campaign.
But this is all procedural.
Exactly.
Where is the substance? Where is the plan that's actually going to create jobs, even if it passes? We need 11 or 12 million jobs just to get back to the heyday of the George W. Bush administration, which means that we're in serious trouble. This bill is not going to create anything approaching that.
It's 60% tax cuts.
60% tax cuts. 60% of
it's tax cuts, and those have only created jobs for our friends in Asia.
Do not create jobs. They create deficits.
The White House, I don't think, has any faith that they can get something of substance done after the election that they had in 2010.
Right.
So I do think it's shifting into campaign mode, and I do think it's energized people on the left. But I think we are overestimating how much the president actually controls the jobs in this country. I mean, if the federal government wanted to hire people directly, I think that would be much better than just saying that the welfare of the 98% of the people, the lower 98%, is dependent on the 2% getting giant bailouts for their mistakes.
I think we need to do that.
Yeah,
the federal government needs to hire people directly, if only to alleviate some of the pain that's out there.
There is. I will note that there's a few things. The best parts of the jobs bill are, not surprisingly, the ones that John Boehner does not like in his memo here. So there is money for federal school construction. I think about $35 billion. Am I right on that? Will you guys check that for me? $35 billion, I think, for school construction, and that is the kind of sort of WPA style direct, direct hiring that you want to see. And there's also, and this is something that keeps getting lost, money for state and local governments. The best, by far, the most obvious stimulus, aside from food stamps and unemployment
Very
insurance.
important.
But by far the most.
Why didn't he go big? I mean, I guess if we're talking, if this is just the lens, if this is all, not smoke and mirrors, but this is for campaign purposes and political purposes, then go big. You know, like
exactly.
if you know it's not going to get passed, which I mean, there's general consensus that half this stuff is not going to get through Congress. Then go.
Okay,
big
but play that out.
and
Play
have
that
a
out.
vision.
Though. Play out that thought experiment. Okay, go big. How big? $1 trillion? $1.5 trillion? And tell me, I'm serious. Tell me in which political universe coming in and being like Mr. Spendy McSpenderson is back with his
Then don't say you're going to create all these jobs.
And it's talking about
state and local spending is really important. I'm in favor of it, but that prevents job loss, which is essential.
Yes.
But that's not job
That's
creation.
the low-hanging fruit, though.
Yeah,
I mean, my only point about state and local is that this is one of these things. This is one of the things that Boehner highlights in his memo, right? The things that we cannot abide is help. Now, let's all remember
the job creation part.
Let's all remember none other than Rick Perry, right? How much did he was like $9 billion of stimulus money that Rick Perry used to close the budgetary gap in the Texas state budget. And the easiest thing, the most low-hanging fruit thing to do is to stop people from losing jobs. It's like before that's the easiest thing to do, and that is where the most resistance is.
But how much of this is creating jobs? How much of it is saving state jobs? I'm calling this the agoraphobia plan because it's never getting out of the house. It's never gonna leave the house. And if it ever does,
nice. Do we have a rim shot down at the end here?
Look, this thing is going to finally be so watered down that Dick Cheney can pour it on a guy's face at Gitmo, okay?
Wow.
But again, it is investing money back in the states, and I agree that he should have gone big. It's like we ordered an FDR and we're getting a Clinton, and as long as it's not going to go anywhere anyway, as long as we know the Republicans are going to kill it, why isn't he going for a giant national public works program?
And fundamentally, he wants to have an argument about the American Social Compact, right? I mean, this is the thing that the White House
he sort of does and sort of doesn't, right? He does not. I don't think he actually wants to have that first principles conversation because he's afraid he's going to lose it. What he wants to have a conversation on. I'm sorry, I'm interrupting. You go. What were you saying? No. I was talking too much. You go.
I deferred to you.
You go.
I do think, look, it's the same talk. It's just what we talked about before. People think government is bad, but when you really distill it to its elements and say, okay, you want to give up on entitlement programs and all the other things that are basically keeping the American public afloat, people choose government. And I think that there is a vision for this country that the White House is trying to push forward, and another one, an alternate one, that the Rick Perrys and the sort of the base of the Republican Party has sort of cobbled together. Exactly. And I think it behooves the president to have a very stark conversation in no uncertain terms about where the country is going and where.
Yes, please. Yes.
Well, the other thing, though, is, I mean, I still think we're overestimating. You talked about consumer spending and consumer confidence being really low. Well, the problem is when tons of people are out of work, they're going into more debt personally. People that have jobs are still deleveraging from the years, from the housing crisis, and from, frankly, overspending. I mean, Americans complain about the government overspending. Many Americans overspent and overleveraged, and so individual Americans are digging out of a giant hole first before they go out and they buy a new house. And sometimes the government is encouraging them to go into more debt with more housing stimulus, et cetera.
Yes, I will say this: you're right about private sector deleveraging. You're right about private sector debt. A lot of that is encouraged by the tax code.
Yeah.
We give huge deductions to take out a big mortgage, and that's something we should look at. But in the short term, we need to aid that deleveraging process, and there's not much being done, particularly on the mortgage side of this. We're going to go to break. Before we go to the break, I want to give an assignment. This popped into my head. Anyone out there, if anyone out there wants to Photoshop the Gadsden flag, the "Don't Tread on Me" flag, with the "Let Him Die" on it, I think that could move. You can move some merchandise on the interwebs.